Wizards, welcome back. Now today I got another fun one for you where we're going to dive into a product that we actually teased to you over at SHOT Show. And this one's very interesting because I don't think it got nearly the interest and the excitement that it actually deserves. Like even for me, when I got to see it, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is very neat. I like where you're going with this. But now I don't want to use anything else. So go get your night vision. I'll pause for just a second so I can help you justify your purchase to your significant other. And let's dive into this thing. That product we teased you with and the one we'll take a closer look at today is the all-new Nocturn Alpha mount. The best part about this too is I also have a ton of other different mounts. Like I have the standard Wilcox G24, I have a Norotos Lo-Sto, and I even have like a knockoff Wish version of the G24, so we can compare all of these and see which one actually brings you the most value, particularly when you're spending this much money. Plus, I'll tell you if the knockoff is actually any good when we go to test these guys. It is. Let's dive into the big question first though. What are all of these mounts? And let me explain why you need one. The Alpha, G24, and Lo-Sto are all dovetail style night vision mounts, meaning they interface into your helmet shroud and connect into dual nod setups to give you a quick attach and release method, along with stowage, rotation, and position, so you can line up and get it perfect for you. Now, I do want to pause here that some mounts do actually give you more of an adjustment range. So we'll test these and I'll show you that some of these mounts let you do some cooler stuff, like you can mount them really high up on your head. You can like dip down and transition into white light, where some of the other mounts just don't let you do that. But going back, dovetail, I don't have one next to me, dovetail style mounts on night vision are the most standard you're gonna see for like dual nod setups. And you may see PVS 14s, and these use J-arm style connections that is not a dovetail. You can get a dovetail for a PVS 14, and that's what I use with the Noise Fighter, so I can have one mount system for everything that I use. I just want you to be aware, particularly when you're getting started in night vision, it can be a little bit confusing as to what you need between the PVS 14 J-arms and the dovetail. So pay close attention to that. If you don't know, ask me, put a comment down below, ask our Discord, or ask the company you're buying it from, and they'll drive you in the right direction. Now, all the mounts we have here today are also the push button style. So they require you to press a side button to release the mount and drop it down. Now, the Alpha mount and the Lo-Sto also come in force to overcome, meaning they don't have that push button and instead just use a little bit extra force to break them loose and then lock in position, and the same thing when you go to actually close them up. But I wanted to show you more apples to apples, so I kept all of them the same. Now, I have used the G24 for a long time. Pretty much all of my night vision experience is with the G24 because it kind of is the gold standard, but it's also kind of a boat and does have some design that's not aging well as time's going on. So let's compare them in a bunch of different categories and see how they all stack up and kind of how they compare to that more gold standard mount that most of us use. But first though, sponsor love. Today's video is sponsored by Fatboy Tripods. When you're out in the world, you can't pick your terrain, and the Elevate head allows you to loosen and lift quickly to get a stable platform, along with the Levitate head to allow you to position and engage with just a flick of a wrist. And look at this, Fatboy Tripods are just mastering accuracy literally anywhere. I tell you this guys all the time, but Fatboy Tripods are what I use and what I'm using right now, both indoors, outdoors, and at the range, because they have both the Picatinny and the Arca mount, so I can throw a rifle on there also. So if you want to pick up one of these, make sure to use discount code TLDco over on the Fatboy website. Save an absolute ton. As always, much love to Fatboy because they're just great people and they make great products, and I love the support they give us, and they help us pay for all these dang mounts. Now though, we gotta talk about my biases, and this is a pretty big one today because I am really pretty slanted. Nocturn is a big supporter of what we do here at TLD, and we really love their products and how they're shaking up the industry. So I am pretty biased with loving Nocturn. I don't really give a crap about Wilcox, particularly with them just screwing over the government with their prices every year. And I also don't care at all about Norotos. But regardless of who I do and don't like, it's thanks to our Patreon supporters that we can do and say whatever we want. Like, we're going to test all these, and the winner's going to be who the winner's going to be. And it's thanks to all of you all. So if you like our more unfiltered style, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter so we can keep this whole channel just crowdfunded. Now with that, there is a huge one that goes with it. Don't take anything that I say or any other YouTuber says as gospel. We're all biased in some way, even subconsciously. If somebody's telling you they're not biased, they're probably selling you something. Remember that. Do your own research so you can be the most educated consumer possible. All right, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. And I figure we'll just start with the tried and true Wilcox G24, go over all of that, and kind of explain why if it ain't broke, don't fix it is probably a plaque on the Wilcox wall somewhere. Here's the G24, and it's probably the most iconic and recognizable mount in the night vision world. The G24 uses two sidebars to connect in the center sled and has a dovetail mount along the bottom. Along the sides of the center sled are two push buttons that have to both be depressed to move the night vision housing forward or backwards. From a user standpoint, you just have to remember that you have to press both buttons, as just doing one of them doesn't do anything. Sometimes this can be harder to do if your head and everything else is in a weirder position, but I've not really run into any issues, and most of the time it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. Now, the center button on the sled is used to release the nods from the dovetail, but you have to be super careful if anything bumps into this, or if you have the sled all the way forward and knock into it, because it'll just straight up eject your nods from your face. Plus, if you use your retention lanyards that are connected into the shroud to take out some of the wobble that this mount is known for, if you press that eject button or something bumps into it, those nods just slam right into your face, which is wonderful. And that's why a lot of people don't use the helmet or the shroud mount, and they use more of a top of helmet retention system, because then they go more upward and they don't just smash right into your eyes if anything touches that. Now, I just realized I've been showing you the knockoff mount the entire time, but interestingly, this does something a little bit different when it comes to that front push button. It doesn't just eject your nods when you tap this or press it. You actually have to press the nods backwards just a little bit, take some of that pressure off, and then the button can be depressed. So kind of funny, the knockoff version has a little bit better of a function than the real one does. Okay, but seriously, from here on though, I'll show you all the function on the real one, even though it's exactly the same. Now, I also mentioned these are all push button, and the G24 has a large tactile push button on the side, so you can find it in the dark and stow and deploy your nods easily. The hinge design itself is functional, but as you can see, it uses a simple groove to sit in position, and this unfortunately just wears out over time. If you've ever seen a veterans user's G24, it's just super wobbly and crappy because all that metal has worn away and there's just not a solid lockup anymore. And what really kind of stinks about it is there's no real good fix to it besides buying another one at 450 plus, can you say dollars? 450 plus robots. It would certainly be nice to see a newer design without knowing every time you use it, it's one day closer to just being in the garbage. I'm sure it's great for military contracts though. Along the side is the cant control, so you can get the image just perfect in your nods. This again has a different style control, so you can easily find it. A little less easy to find though, along the top is the height adjustment, so you can adjust how far up or down your nods sit on your face. Then you have your lockout or breakaway along with the attachment latch. In terms of controls, I think the G24 is pretty smart. I've never really had any complaints with it, even if the front button does just kind of drop kick your nods straight towards the earth. But each of the different controls feel different too, so it's easy to kind of feel around in the dark and you touch something and you're like, oh no, that's not what I want to do. Oh, that's what it is. Here's the adjustment. That's what I want to have. So I think that is well done here on the G24. Moving to the rear of the unit, it's mostly slick with the rubber grommet to help with some of the wobble when mounted, but I'll tell you right now, that mostly does nothing. From our ObsCore video, I have covered this using the helmet attachment shim, so it doesn't rattle around like crazy. Overall, looking at all the different pieces of it, the G24 really is a solid unit from form and function. Even if you gotta add a couple fixes to make it work properly, but this really is the gold standard that's on the market with almost no real competition at all. Now, I showed you this before, but I also have a crappy knockoff version. And if you bet me money, I probably couldn't tell the difference between the two. The only way I know, obviously they're different colors, but the knockoff one doesn't have as much wobble because I haven't used it nearly as much, but that's really it. Oh, besides that, yeah, this one just doesn't eject things to the ground. That's really the only difference. Okay, I guess the knockoff doesn't have the side QR code for the manual, but when worn, I can't tell them apart besides the fact that the knockoff requires you to push your nods backwards and secure them before releasing, instead of just launching them into the ground. So if you're getting into mil sim or just getting started in night vision and you don't want to spend an absolute ton of money right off the bat and you're wondering if the knockoffs are crappy, nah, they're absolutely fine. I'll say this, if you manage to break the knockoff, that means you use your nods enough to justify the real thing, and at that point go buy them, but until that point just use the crappy knockoffs. Now I want to show you the Lo-Sto because I really don't like it at all, but first let's take a look at the new Nocturn Alpha mount. Now I do want to say here, the Alpha mount we have here is a pre-production sneak peek, so be aware there may be small variation to the final production version. But the Alpha uses a single mount arm this time and has a far more streamlined design. The center sled still rides along the middle bar, but we have a bit of a smarter design with a single push button to activate, but the opposite side is shielded, so the lever can't be impeded if you put your thumb over it. From a use standpoint, it's pretty much identical to the G24, whereas on the 24, you're feeling for both buttons. On this one, you're just feeling for one. They both still have the teeth where it locks in place. So you kind of have those set positions where it goes into, so it locks in place. But yeah, pretty much identical to the G24 and the Norotos Alpha mount. Moving forward, the nod release lever is actually my new favorite. And here you can push down with your fingers to release the dovetail, meaning once installed, you just grab the center body of your nods, push down a lever and pull forward to remove them in one clean motion. Since the mount captures the entire dovetail and you need a different style of motion to actually release this, having something bump the front of your mount here means you're not just going to launch your nods into the dirt, and instead you have a very deliberate action to release these that works very, very well. Moving backwards, we again see a unique tactile design with the push button, so you can obviously recognize this in the dark. This moves the locking bar over, and now with the locking bar out of the way, it's simply the same as the force to overcome version, with the ball detent releasing and giving tension until it locks back into the deployed or stowed position. By having the ball detent, yes, we get a much more secure lockup, meaning you get less wobble and noise and a much longer lifespan than other versions that aren't doing this. Back on the unit though, swapping sides, we see the cant control that uses another unique lever to know exactly what you're changing even without looking. And this guy gave me a ton of adjustment that we'll show in our comparison later. Moving to the height adjustment, we have a design that mimics the sled with the same push button, but the other side isn't shielded this time due to the fact that it may be covered by a little rotational knob for the cant, and you instead use the side of the cant control for leverage. From a control standpoint, this is fantastic because I have both of my sliders and their buttons on the same side, so I'm not hunting around for them. Plus, I have a stowage button that is purposeful and meaningful in a different design from everything else, plus a cant design that is obvious as to what I'm doing, even when I'm not looking at it and I have my nods on and it's completely dark out. The controls are just done very, very well, and the Norotos you're gonna see in particular, you do have to hunt around a lot for what the heck you're actually trying to mess with. The G24 is pretty intuitive. The only one that's hard to find a lot of times is that height adjustment because it's that weird lever. And I like this because every bit of it is obvious as to what you're doing when you're wearing it. Now for lock and breakaway, the Alpha just uses two positions, with the bar all the way to the left for lock and all the way to the right for breakaway. Now flipping this over, we see something unique also, where there are built-in pads and feet on the rear of the mount to give a secure lockup in the helmet shroud. Now, like I said, some helmets like the new OpsCore SF come with shims that you can install on the back of these, but the Alpha mount just comes with these, so you don't have to hope and pray that the helmet you buy includes them or go hunt around for weird shims later. In the production version of the Alpha mount, you'll also get different size feet, so you can remove these and place in the larger ones or take them out completely, whatever you need to do to get the best possible fit. But I thought locking this in, it performed better than all the other mounts in terms of lockup. Obviously, the Alpha mount is a newer design, so we're seeing a lot of lessons learned, like with the ball detent adding to life everything in the lockup, and the addition of the feet to make everything fit better in the shroud. But I'm also super biased, so maybe we just need to do more tests. So let's look at one more mount, and this one has me, I'm not gonna lie to you, this one has me super annoyed with the Norotos chunky brick thing. I mean the Lo-Sto. Seriously, it's a big girl. The Norotos just doesn't care and has apparently sacrificed any and all form for function, and I think anyway. The sled is attached underneath the main housing and rides on the 2 lower rails. To adjust it, you just loosen the locking lever and it'll kind of do whatever it wants once you let go of this. I mean, hold on. This thing costs 470, oh, careful, 470 robots. And if you even slightly touch this lever, all of your adjustments just go to hell in a handbasket. You guys tell me if I'm just being ridiculous, but I don't know, that kind of sucks. Now, the release button for your night vision is at least good though, as you press the button in the center channel to release your nods, which makes for an action similar to the Alpha mount. Now, I do suppose there exists a position where your nods are so close to your head that you can't release them, but I also don't think anyone is running them like that. I mean, if somebody gouged your eyes out, I mean, maybe that's how you'd be running them, but at that point, I don't know how useful your night vision is gonna be. Now looking at the cant adjustment lever, here I'm happy again. It's a different type of control and I know what this does if I felt it in the dark. Moving to the push button though, this is the first one that doesn't bother to give you a distinct feel and instead just uses a rounded button that feels a whole lot like the rest of the unit when you're just poking around. This one gave me the most trouble to find for sure when I was testing, and it did not make for an intuitive experience. Moving to the Lo-Sto hinge, you can feel it uses the same design as the G24 to lock and release, meaning there's no ball detent to keep the mount locked up as the metal parts start to wear. Now moving to the top, we have the height locking lever that you loosen and adjust, similar to the sled distance adjustment, and I don't really love it. I don't really love these controls overall whatsoever. You have knobs and controls all over the unit with no real consistency. Plus you have to memorize where this push button is, because if you've never used this unit before or you're unfamiliar with it, there's no way you're gonna just randomly find that in the dark. If we're looking at controls and overall, most intuitive and having things make sense, I think the Lo-Sto did the worst of them all, and I just can't figure out half the time and what advantage I'm gaining with this. The top locking lever and breakaway is at least intuitive, but the rear of the Lo-Sto is just flat, making the worst shroud to mount interface we've seen yet. I'm gonna say here, I just don't get it. I don't know why you would buy this. Like maybe if it was the cheaper version and you want to sacrifice some features and some controls and save a bunch of money, but that's not the case here. This is just as expensive, if not more expensive than some other options. And the controls and the design, all of that aren't even the worst part. There's another one. The whole dang thing on the version I have is magnetic. Now, I think these magnets are so you can turn some night vision designs on and off, like when they're come off the mount. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it does not work correctly with the Nocturn offerings or anything that uses its own individual pod shutoff. So if you're gonna get the Lo-Sto mount, definitely do not get the one with the magnets because this thing sucks. I say that because my lanyard and helmet attachments all try to magnetize to it. And like I said, the Manicore and other Nocturn offerings use magnets for individual pod shutoff. And the Lo-Sto magnets make things not work properly. If you get the magnet version like I have, you basically have to drill these magnets out to get that individual pod shutoff to work. And I'm just not gonna go through all that trouble. I'll just sell this thing off and get rid of it, or just give it away to somebody else. Maybe they got a different setup they can use, because it's not worth the trouble. And it's also not great from a form or control standpoint. It's just not the best unit out there. But maybe my position magically changes when we do some more tests. So let's do a little bit more and test weight. But still angry at these magnets. Let's put our pig with lipstick on it with the Lo-Sto up here first. And we see we have a weight of approximately 136 grams or about 4.8 ounces. The G14 we have with our little stop the rattle pad on here came in actually a little bit heftier at 168 grams, or just about 6 ounces. Now let's move to the Alpha mount, and okay, 80 grams, or 2.8 ounces. At SHOT Show, Nocturn was making some pretty wild claims about this guy, and at the time it was prototype stage, so I thought they were blowing smoke a little bit, but there's some truth to their claim. The Alpha mount is, no joke, half the weight of a G24. Now, I don't have a G24 Lite, but I did look them up, and those are about 143 grams. So you're still saving a whole lot of weight using the Alpha mount, even over the slimmed down G24 version. Now though, let's go mount this up in our helmet and our nods in the configurations that I like to use and see if we run into any issues. Now to explain what I'm gonna do, I like to have my nods ride high so I can look down them when I wanna use night vision, but also look up to transition to white light or if I need to use one of my optics. Starting with the G24, I can kinda do this. The mount goes high enough, but the angle adjustment isn't there to center the tube, meaning I have to drop it down a bit and I'm forced to look under my nods pretty heavily. Now, some people don't realize this, but white light transitions are a big part of using night vision because you're not just gonna be under these all the time. Obviously, you're gonna transition if the lights come on or things get loud. You're probably not gonna keep these on and try to look through a tube. Now, you can also do the super cool guy stuff of just lifting up one of the nods so that you can have your night vision view and then still be able to look through your optic. But from a mount adjustment comparison, this is a good test, so I'm just gonna stay here. Moving to the Alpha mount next, this is just fantastic. I can slide the mount higher and I have a better cant control, so I can get a high mounted view through my nods that I can easily dip my head down to use, but I can also look underneath clearly to aim through the sights when things go white and loud. Testing the Lo-Sto, this was at least better than the G24 and I could cant it properly, but even at the highest setting, I didn't have that full field of view that the Alpha mount gave me, but I was happy with this setup and how it functions. For me on this test, the Alpha mount was the obvious choice on how much easier it was to dip down, look through my nods, and then transition to white light if I needed to use a task light or anything else. It just gave me a lot more adjustment in terms of position to get things exactly how I wanted them. And really, the G24 gave me the most struggles when I did this test, and I felt the same way when I went to classes with it. Like, I did struggle with that a lot, as I'd have to look almost completely underneath my nods in order to transition to white light, and it did make for a lot of challenges. But let's move into another test and let's look at Lockup and Rigidity and see how all of these guys do once they're mounted up and actually test them. Now for this, I won't install the lanyards, even though I do expect you to always have them. I just want you to see a worst case scenario. We'll do the Lo-Sto first, and this just sucks. It's a rattly loose bit of garbage, and you can see how much the image of the tube would be moving around when you're wearing this. If fit and lockup is your jam, well, this isn't it. Moving to the G24, my unit has seen some classes and some use, so this just isn't great, and I pretty much have to use the lanyards because it's so noisy if you're running with the image bouncing all over. Even the knockoff G24 is nice, but you can see it still has some wobble, and I haven't even really used it yet, but it's still better than the legit one. Now though, the Alpha mount. With the ball detent, we see none of these problems. It gets a solid lockup in both the NVG arm and the shroud, so we don't have the issues of things rattling around all over the place. Everything is just locked up exactly how you want it. Now, I'm trying to not just say that the Alpha mount wins everything, so we'll let the viewers decide on this one, so you guys let me know down in the comments. The Alpha mount was just the only one that wasn't rattly and super obnoxious. Now let's do one last test and talk about what happens when each of these face some blunt force trauma. Now, I can't smash all these, but I'll tell you what happens when they see some wild impacts. For the G24, the front arms are the weak point. So if these take a solid hit, the arms bend and the sled then tilts and locks in position, meaning your nods are all wonky with no way to fix it. Yay, gold standard! Now for the Norotos, I'll actually give this test to them because I'm pretty sure this mount also doubles as a softball on the weekends. It's certainly not pretty and it's certainly not great to use, but you could no doubt hit this thing 200 or 300 yards and it would suffer no functionality impact. Now though, let's look at the Alpha mount, as that mount actually hides something really interesting. Here on the Alpha, there's actually a fail-safe design built in, meaning that when the Alpha mount takes what would be a destruction level impact, the unit breaks in a way so that it simply becomes forced to overcome only, meaning you'd likely not even know the unit itself was broken in any way from a functionality standpoint. It's pretty interesting how they designed the whole system to fail in such a way where it breaks away but still gives you full functionality, instead of like the Wilcox where you have this tilted, broken mess just stuck to your face. But that's all of our tests, so let's talk about where they all end up on my list, which ones I recommend, and how it all shook out. To me, I know this may surprise all of you, I felt like the Alpha mount took first place, but I'll say why. It found smarter ways to solve every problem, from lockup to controls, and then also do it in a way that cuts the weight in half from the competitors, with the, what I think is the second best durability of the entire lineup. The Wilcox G24 cleanly takes second with its intuitive controls and battle-tested functionality. This guy is a monster. It's a great mount, but it's also showing its age with the dated lockup design. The Lo-Sto, though, 100% took dead last. From its Buick LeSabre-inspired design to the afterthought controls, along with these stupid magnets, I want nothing to do with this, and the price makes the whole thing even more ridiculous. I do think Nocturn just nailed it with this Alpha mount. Now, for all of you Lo-Sto owners out there, we do also have a discount code so you can save a bunch of money if you want to grab one of these and get rid of that hunk of dump. I'll tell you to also stay tuned as we pair the new Alpha mount with the new Raptor and Talon night vision offerings from Nocturn and show you off some pretty crazy new setups. I'm betting those setups are going to be light as hell, and maybe we'll even see how the Alpha mount does on the Quad Chimera. But I hope this video testing the Nocturn Alpha mount, the Wilcox G24, and the Norotos Lo-Sto was useful in your purchasing decisions. I want to say thanks to all of our Patreon and YouTube members. You make it possible we can get all these products, test them out, come tell you which one is worth your money after we've tested it and determined which ones we really, really don't like. And I also want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and oh my, so close. I also want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. What is your favorite mount? I want to hear it down in the comments. And do you think the Alpha mount can beat it? Or tell me which one you think can beat the Alpha mount. I want to hear about it. I want to test it. I'm rambling here at the end. All right, later, everybody. Oh, Norotos. I think the only thing you're good for is like hitting a home run. God damn. Get the Alpha mount. The other one sucks. The G24 is also good, but man, I think it's interesting how, not to say how little I've used mine, but I'm not an excessive user. I'm not a veteran user, but I've gone to a few classes, used my night vision, deployed them a good bit of time, and even mine is pretty worn. So that really kind of stinks when you're talking about this amount of money. And the knockoffs, if they're going to wear the same amount, just get those. But yeah, Alpha mount's awesome. More cool stuff. Stay tuned. Secret sauce. Later, guys.